Hello and welcome to the formal review. Today, we will be looking at the 2020 film, Bloodshot. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the review.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the formal review. This is season 3, episode 6, and I thank you all for tuning in once again. Now I know I said this review would be on behalf of Backseat Directors, but I wanted to make a podcast review as well because I really wanted to talk about the film. However, you can still check the written review out on backseatdirectors.com. Now before I get started on this episode, I do want to say that this may be my last 40X review for a while due to my local theater that provides this format may be closing due to the coronavirus pandemic. On that note, I do want to give one quick PSA about this. I do come from a public health background, so I cannot not say anything. Everyone, please be smart when dealing with this pandemic. Please make smart decisions. Know the risk of going out and socializing. If you do feel sick, stay at home. There was a case of someone who did travel on an airplane even though they were sick, and I feel that this is a fairly dumb decision. I understand the wanting to travel, but a lot of airlines now have a lot of cancellation fees that they're waiving due to the virus, so always look into that before you have to travel. And if the virus is confirmed near you and you do not have any symptoms, there's still a chance that you are a carrier and can infect others. I do know that tests for the virus are limited at this point pretty much entirely across the United States, but everyone must do what they are able to prevent the spread of the disease. Wash your hand for 20 seconds before and after you eat. Wipe down surfaces with disinfectants, as the virus can lay dormant on the surfaces after it has landed on them. There have been studies that have shown that other coronaviruses have lasted over 24 hours on metallic surfaces. While these studies are not directly applied to this virus, keep in mind that there is no guarantee that it won't or will do the same. There's still a lot of research going on about this. I do know that Canada has isolated the strain of the virus, so that may allow for better testing and understanding of it. But until then, please keep up to date on your local area's rules about the virus and check the CDC's website for their recommendations if you have any questions. Alright, that's the end of my public health PSA, and back to the movie review. I also want to preface this episode with a slight spoiler warning. As I always do, I will do my best to not completely ruin the movie for you, but as I always say, I do suggest you go see the film before you hear what I have to say about it so you fully understand everything. But if you do not care about that, keep listening. Now, Vin Diesel has done a lot of variety. Well, hasn't really done much variety, but he has done some variety in his career. And he's obviously mostly known for his work in the Fast and Furious saga. Now, that's what he calls it. I kind of feel that this is a slight dig at The Rock's film Hobbs and Shaw, based on the fact that they say Fast and Furious presents, but it doesn't matter! Anyway, here's some interesting facts about him. His actual name is Mark Sinclair. His stage name comes from two parts. Vin, which comes from his adoptive father's surname, Vincent, and Diesel comes from when he was working as a club bouncer in New York City, and he was given it because he always had so much energy on the job. He also has one twin brother, Paul Vincent. They're not identical twins, they're fraternal twins. Diesel loves Dungeons & Dragons so much so that he wrote a foreword to the book celebrating the game, and he actually funded his film Pitch Black and turned down the role of Daredevil, not the Netflix TV show one, but the Ben Affleck film for XXX. While that decision may have produced the same quality of film for most, he definitely looks at that film as a success instead of Affleck's film being really a bad film for almost everyone. For me specifically, I don't actually really care too much about that Daredevil film. It's kind of a guilty pleasure for me. I actually do find a lot of enjoyment in it, and maybe one day I'll do a live recording of that. Now, Diesel's first big role was in Awakenings. Yes, the film with Robert De Niro and Robin Williams. It is a very small role in that, and then his first very big role was in Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan, and in total he has been in 37 films, with his fame mostly coming from action films. And before we get into my review of Bloodshot, I would just want you all to know my kind of favorite Vin Diesel films that he has been in with a significant role. While some of these may not actually be good films, they're still some of my favorite roles that he has played. Now, number 5 is XXX. I have, again, a kind of guilty pleasure for these films. I think they're fun, action. They're obviously very cheesy, but I like them, and I think Vin Diesel plays the part absolutely perfectly. Can't really ask for more with those types of films. Number 4 is Pitch Black. I do think that this film similarly works well in the same exact aspect of that, but it's a little bit more serious in tone, which I think works well for kind of a brooding action star as Vin Diesel does so well. Fast 5. Now, I thought this was actually really good, debatably is the best movie in the entire series. Now, having said that, the Fast series, this is obviously Vin Diesel's role as Dominic Toretto, and I like this film more than any of the other ones, but I do think that him as Dominic Toretto over the span of the entire saga has been really good, and he's played it perfectly. I mean, that is his most iconic role, for better or worse. So, but it's not my top two. So my top two are Find Me Guilty, which, if you haven't seen that, it's him actually trying at a more dramatic role playing a mobster. This movie does a really good job and actually kind of shows some acting ability that he hadn't really done since Saving Private Ryan, because Saving Private Ryan, even though it's a small role, I think that he does really good acting in that, but because it's very small, that's why I didn't include it here. But my first one is Iron Giant. The reason is mostly because the film is really good, but also I remember this film being really good from his voicing of the actual Iron Giant. Now, I know it's not him personally, but I do think that he encapsulates the character very well and keeps him on a very level-headed ground in both showing emotion and everything through his voice. And while that's not exactly acting in the traditional sense, I do think that that's more possible. Some people listening may want me to put Avengers or Guardians, but I don't think Groot himself was a very great character by any means, aside from hilarity and cute. And I don't really remember that being Vin Diesel as more as his line of only saying I am Groot multiple times. Iron Giant has him learning over time, and that's why I put that there. So now on to the
Voting isn't just going to the polls anymore on Election Day. Options like early voting, mail-in voting, and ballot drop boxes are available to more voters and are growing in popularity. How to Vote is a tool created by Democracy Works, and it breaks down the options your state offers by forecasting a ballot, empowering you to decide where and when to vote. Democracy works best when we all vote, but misinformation and confusion about election procedures have resulted in low voter turnout. How to Vote takes the guesswork out of the voting process. It is easy to use and helps folks from all over the country overcome many of the process barriers to voting. It is committed to helping you vote no matter what. You can use the How to Vote tool to sign up for election reminders, see what's on your ballot, get step-by-step assistance requesting your mail ballot, explore your options for returning your mail-in ballot, check your voter registration status, and find your local polling site, and make sure that you have an appropriate ID to bring with you. Decide when and where you'll vote this year at howto.vote.
Bloodshot is a superhero film based on the Valiant Comics character of the same name. It is supposed to be the first installment in a series of films set within a Valiant Comics shared cinematic universe, and was directed by first-timer David S.F. Wilson. It obviously stars Diesel and has Eliza Gonzalez, Sam Huagin, if I'm pronouncing that right, Toby Kebbell, and Guy Pearce as co-stars. It is about a Marine who is killed in action, who is only brought back to life with superpowers by an organization that wants to use him as a weapon. If you have seen and liked a Vin Diesel action film before, you will have a lot of stuff in this film to like. This film has a muscular man running around with explosions, shootouts, and beatdowns. For the most part, the action scenes in this film, aside from the first one, are pretty well done and are engaging. They definitely look a whole lot better than a lot of the other Diesel films, and the pacing is pretty decent, and one who enjoys the action won't really feel bored, as there are a lot of quick cuts during the fight scenes. I think that the CGI's experience with CG is noticeable in the action scenes in both good and bad ways, but I think that the good is it keeps some of the action looking very coherent and engaging. While I have never read the Valiant Comics Bloodshot, it does have a lot of fans, both domestically and internationally, and when you add Vin Diesel as the character who has his own fan base, theoretically a good film would be produced. And I think that Diesel himself does a decent job as this action figure who grunts and flexes during some decent action sequences. He does kick a lot of butt, which is the most you can expect from a film like this. And this does look fairly cool at times and keeps the film fairly entertaining. And he does add his characteristic machismo, which effectively makes him an action hero. But I feel that the actor's performance doesn't bring any depth to the role. This film is not good. The CGI is really bad at times, and the characters are so undeveloped, and the story is really all over the place. There's even a line of dialogue that has Pierce's character making fun of one of his designer's stories because he has done every cliche in the book, which honestly kind of seems meta in a way with this film, because this film is really, and I mean really, cliche. And Pierce is okay, but he isn't really a good villainous evil scientist character because he seems more empathetic toward his creations than anything. And I think that there's a comedy aspect in this film which seems off both from a film aspect and a comedy aspect. Not all the jokes land. If the film had been more done as a complete action story, it could have been better. I will say the comedy did make me laugh when they made the jokes, but it honestly felt corny more than anything, or the jokes were just really, really bad. Also, for a film called Bloodshot, this film has very little blood. This is probably due to the PG-13 rating, and maybe an R rating would have made this film better in that aspect. However, I know this film is trying to market toward young teenagers, and an R rating would prevent them from seeing it. So Bloodshot is honestly a popcorn movie. It has solid action scenes and a relentless pace that normally would have been really good for 40X. And the film was definitely fun to see in this format. However, it is definitely not needed, because viewers probably won't be watching this film too many times. I personally don't think you need to pay extra for it. It's really a shame that Diesel was put into this terribly written film, because there is a lot of potential here for it to be so much better. However, it does have some solid Vin Diesel action, and thus some entertainment value. But maybe wait for it to be on television or a streaming service. But if one is not a Vin Diesel fan at all, skip it altogether. So now, what did you think of the film, and what are your favorite Vin Diesel films? Let me know. Hit me up on social media, The Formal Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. The URL is all the same. It's at The Formal Review. Please also subscribe to the podcast on your favorite service. It is on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and really anywhere you can find podcasts. Also, I'm always wanting to grow and improve, so feel free to leave a review. I see the numbers and I do this for you. Also, I want to keep it entertaining. I appreciate everyone supporting me by listening and talking about movies. For those who have contributed financially, I really thank you have supported me in that way. For anyone who wants to financially contribute, please go to anchor.fm/the-formal-review and click support this podcast. I thank you very much in advance, and any donation is appreciated. As with every episode, I do have music in the background. I do not know the rights to this music, but I keep it in each episode to show support for the film's score and composer. Part of the film is an essential one in the filmmaking process and should be appreciated more by movie watchers. This episode's music is from the Bloodshot original motion picture score composed by Steven Jablonski. It was released by Columbia Pictures Industries Inc. under Sony Music Entertainment on February 14th, 2020. Thank you all for tuning in once again, and until next time, be safe, wash your hands, and take care, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Formal Review. We hope you'll join us again.